What's up, guys? I'll be jumping in and out with sound, but just so we know and we're clear, the low pressure is centralized just below the Mississippi Delta, right about here. You see it open up right around there, and now everything's going to start flowing in that direction, and you see the connection through Louisiana right here, which matches up with this. You see it connect right through the heart of Louisiana, coming all the way up from the northeast. Right there. And now we got one solid atmospheric river, I guess you could call it. Counterclockwise spin, and then it's just a waiting game to find out how long Barry will be in the Gulf before it decides to shoot north. It's heading in a slightly western direction. But from some of the charts I've been reading, there was a little bit of a north jolt as well. So the spaghetti plots are pretty much 70% on. I believe this will be either dead center as far as the eye, whether it's a depression or a Category 1, will be right around this area. Most of the flooding will be in this area, unfortunately, for Louisiana and the Mississippi Delta area. Because remember, these counterclockwise spins, like I said in the last video, they're bringing water in, and then when they come back out, they'll actually pull water out to the point where it looks like a low tide in some cases. I don't think that this hurricane will be that way, only because it doesn't have much time to form. It's going to be forming just as it's making landfall, which is why they're still up in the air whether or not it's going to hit that Category 1 status or not. But regardless, the amount of moisture in the Gulf right now is going to do enough damage to where it wouldn't matter if it was a Category 1 or 2. In fact, the water damage is going to be worse than Category 1 or 2 wind damage would do to this area. At this point, after being underwater for so long, we have a lot to worry about with the Mississippi River, contamination, things like that. So, just running downstairs real quick. I'll be right back. Here's a current flight they're doing right now through Barry to get some more readings. You can see they started up here. They kind of do this formation pretty often. It's almost like an X, a box X. And now it does say it's real time, so it does update itself. You see where the airplane is now. That's usually where it is at this point. In fact, we could refresh this to see if, yeah, that thing's already on its way back. So it was here, and then just in that 15-minute time span, it was able to get all the way back up in this area. So it looks like it's heading home, probably following this path back up here, and then boom. Either to refuel or for the next plane. And there's also ships out here. We got ships as well. How you doing, Milton T? Good to see you. This right here, what you're seeing, this last part, no bueno. This is pulling a lot of moisture across that last part of the Mississippi River in the heart of Louisiana just before we got to start worrying about whether or not this is going to be a hurricane or not. A lot of people saying Harvey too. I don't know about that. It depends. I mean, if this thing stalls out and it sits here for days, it'll produce the amount of water that Harvey did. But Harvey was a fairly strong storm. This is a water maker, to say the least. There's so much moisture in this storm, it's unbelievable, and it's because of the heating of the Gulf. The Gulf of Mexico is like record-breaking hot right now. Some parts of it, 90-degree water. 90 degrees. The old buffer trick. Back and forth until we get the whole thing. Yeah, this infrared view gets pretty scary because you see those blacks and stuff in there. Those are those upper level clouds, but it gives you a good idea about what's going on under them. And it's not good. Yeah, those are insane. You can see right here by the end of by the frame 200, we could almost see where that eye is going to show up if this becomes a hurricane. But again, it's still moving a little slightly west. And then it's going to want to come up in this direction. It's almost doing like a horseshoe now, in a way. Central pressure right here. It's exactly where it is right now. I think the last I checked was 108 miles off the coast. But it still might go a little southwest before it comes back up. If that happens, that's not a good thing because it just keeps it in the water longer. I mean, if we want, best case scenario, what we want is this thing to go north as soon as possible. Either that or just continue moving south out of the U.S. completely. But we don't think that's going to happen. So what we need to hope for is that it stays in the water for the least amount of time. The longer it's in here, the more it's going to form, the more you're going to see hurricane traits. That should fix the echo. Sorry about that. Crazy chicken, dude. You don't have to donate anything, my man. I appreciate it, though. Very, very much. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, I had both. I had the desktop audio on as well. That's why it was, echo, echo. But we can see. You got to look underneath the colors. I know the colors are hard to avoid to look at, but what's underneath is that rotation. These upper level clouds are what's fueling what's going on underneath them. You can almost see a pin drop spin here. It's almost it's almost like the eye is forming. And that's what happens after you get tropical storms. The next thing is a category 1 hurricane. That will have an eye and everything. You can see it right there. It's so close. Careful with the data. I'll tell you firsthand that stuff runs out quick, especially when you're doing this stuff. It's a little harder to see on this version. This is the lower level water vapor. So this is a little bit lower than what you would see here, for example. And I have them sped up a little bit. This isn't real speed. In fact, this would be... This is the speed at which they start the site. But I usually go to about here. Gives you a better idea of what you're looking at as far as movement and getting used to watching patterns. I always try to get people used to watching patterns. That's how you get used to seeing and understanding what's going to happen. But that doesn't always mean you're going to be right at all, by any means. It just gets you used to visually seeing how a hurricane forms, what it does in the meantime, how it interacts with land. I mean, in this case in particular, we have a hurricane forming in an area where it's completely surrounded by land. So any little bit of moisture, whether that's from Mexico, Cancun, the Bahamas, like I said, once this line here that we're seeing that's connecting through Louisiana up into the United States, you can see that right here. Once this thing starts spinning and almost makes a full 360, you're going to see that line shift over to this side of Florida, and it's going to be pulling moisture. It's going to be spinning this way, and if there's any remnants left up in the northeast, you're going to see that line coming through Florida and up in this direction. But hopefully this system kind of breaks off on its own and will not aid in this anymore. The only thing I'm worried about is another system that's coming in from the west, as you can see right here, is going to make its way across the country. Again, just like they all do, ground zero. Depending on the jet stream, it may push it down. That's what we don't want, because that will also keep Barry in the water longer. So we need to keep an eye on this entire western front as well as what's going on in the east and this connection right here, this atmospheric river connection thing going on. And now we got like an S shape going on here all the way down to the Gulf. Mass destruction. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you, thank you. I just saw that actually. It's always in here. Always. Means a lot, my man. Voice is going though. Oof. I've been talking a lot lately. My voice is shot. Nomads, you guys are in Colorado. I was looking at some of the pictures you guys were putting up before. I was trying to figure out where you were. It's like Carmen Sandiego with you guys. Yeah, Mass, thanks a lot, buddy. Seriously. Much appreciated. Danny was not good. Check that link out. Norway Tracking posted. Danny was a mess. Ugh, this is a mess. This whole system's just a big giant mess. Up. Tennessee, Kentucky. In fact, I want to see that. We'll keep this one on for now, because this really shows those that counterclockwise spin we're looking at and looking for. That's where we want to focus on, because that's when we know where we should start seeing the counterclockwise ring. Basically, that would be like a tropical tidbits type deal. GFS has been a little more accurate, but what I mean by hurricane shape, I mean like that, where you get the tight rings, low pressure in the middle. And see how it's showing it's kind of riding right up that east side of Louisiana? That's why most of the flooding is going to be pulled in this direction, which is the entire Mississippi basin, the entire southeast of Louisiana, and this might be Alabama as well, and definitely parts of the panhandle of Florida. It's not just going to be where you see this little spot. The entire area from the panhandle, and Texas might get a little lucky here. We might just get a pullout from Texas, but again, we have this system coming in from the west right now, and you can see all these spotty cell storms here. That's eventually going to play a part. It's going to roll right over top of this and might just get sucked right in with it about 24 hours before so-called landfall. You can see that right there. And then if I switch to Legacy, you can see Legacy's kind of taking the same exact path now. They're both on that east side of Louisiana, which would be hit the worst, and then the water coming this way is what would put Mississippi in the crosshairs as well. Either way, this is going to put a lot of dirty water up into the Mississippi River, which is what we don't want. That's going to be a main issue, because we have a lot of pollution going on in the Gulf right now because of the flooding that's been going on for months. Months now. Karen G, thank you so much. I just saw that as well. That's not the first time you've done that. Thank you so much. Means the world to us. You know that. Thank you so much. Solvis, what's up, buddy? Yes, I got your message. I did see that, and I had just happened to be making the video that is my most recent one besides this live stream, obviously, when I saw that. I woke up really late this afternoon. My hours are backwards. I'm up at night. I sleep during the day, but I'm trying to get that changed. Especially now that we're getting into what I think is going to be a couple back-to-back-to-back storms. We're going to have to be doing a little more coverage than just video per night. We're going to have to start doing multiples per night. East Taleo. This might be why, if you're up by the Atlanta area, we got two radars we can look at in Georgia here. You got the KFFC here. If you're up in this area, you're definitely getting rain. You can check this one too. Yeah, definitely North Georgia's got some rain going on. That's for sure. That's a smaller radar. Here's one of the bigger ones. So yeah, if you're near Atlanta, definitely you're getting some storms. That's part of that system that's reaching down all the way through Louisiana right now. Actually, this is part of that strip that's coming all the way up, causing all these marine statements. And then this is what was keeping my brother stuck in Philadelphia tonight. Most of that has cleared out by now, though. I mean, we could look at this one here, and you could see there is certainly a big swath of weather going up the east side of the country right now, which is why you're seeing these orange marine statements. Those are mostly for boating and people that live right there on the coast. It's basically the same thing as a severe weather watch, but a lot of severe weather going up the east coast right now. You can see right here, this is where the main part of those storms are going to be in Georgia, if you're in Georgia right now. Yeah, it's going to be it's not going to be fun for the next few days. That's why I'm hoping this piece here, in fact, it looks like right around there, if we get to that last frame, that was just a refresh. You kind of start seeing right in this area, it starts to pull away at that last frame. In fact, I'll just do it manually so we don't have to wait every time. Towards that last bit right here, you start to see a break up here, so I'm assuming this will be the next area to pull apart from it. And this is going to want to come out this way, and this will come out to the ocean. But we need to see what this is going to do. And from the looks of it, if we back out and we look at where the jet stream is, you can see it coming up this way and then down and then up. So if this gets trapped down here, this system here gets trapped, it's going to come down and follow the same path, just like this. And the second it hooks over basically Oklahoma or Arkansas, it's going to start coming down through possibly Mississippi or Alabama or the north end of Louisiana and then become part of the Gulf situation if it gets there in time. I mean, it very well could aid in this. You can see this part here is getting pulled up by that eastern storm. Again, these are the lower level water vapor clouds. So these are a little bit lower than, let's say, these, for example. All right, let's see. Mobile. The adjoining, my man, thank you so much. Kermit, also, thank you so much. Kermit is my god. What a name. That is awesome. ADD, thank you so much, buddy. Yes, I'm gonna. The audio will be in and out. I'm doing a bunch of different things at the moment, but someone asked a question about rainfall for Mobile, Alabama. So, I mean, right now you're in a flash flood watch, so I would expect rain. And again, it goes back to the point I was making before. Once this thing kind of starts taking its shape, which we should start seeing in the next 12 hours. I mean, we are seeing it now technically. I mean, for those of us that watch weather, we kind of know what we're seeing here. It's a tropical storm. We know where the central low pressure is. So what we're waiting for now is to see exactly what direction this thing is still moving. It's moving so slow, it's almost hard to tell whether it's going south or west or both. It kind of looks like it's sitting there at that last frame. If I stop here and I just move to frame 200 and I kind of just go back and forth right here like this, just watching this area right here. This is the low pressure central area. This is what everything's revolving around, is right here. See that? So once that starts collecting this moisture, we're going to start to see this thing forming more and more. And then, according to the spaghetti plots, this thing wants to shoot straight north, right in the dead center of Louisiana, bringing a lot of that moisture and rain and flooding and storm surge to the Mississippi Delta region. I mean, so Alabama being that close, I can only assume the rain is going to be pretty significant. As far as the winds and things like that, again, because we are so close to let me get back to the forecast models here on Tropical Tidbits. I mean, you could see that the models are bringing this thing. It's definitely coming up the east coast of Louisiana, and then you got Mississippi, and then Alabama. So you can only assume that this is going to affect parts of that area more towards the coast. The more inland you go, the less wind it'll be. But again, this thing is a rainmaker. And you could see as we go even past landfall into like the 14th and 15th, you could see it going through Mississippi and Alabama there, and then it kind of goes north. The high pressure keeps it from coming up into the east there. I just noticed that. So this thing's coming straight up the Mississippi River. Oh my goodness, you got to be kidding me. So a high pressure is expected to pop up here, high pressure here, leaving this storm nowhere else to go, but basically following the Mississippi River. That would just be the worst cherry on top ever. I mean, look at that. I think they're just updating this now. Yep, they're updating the data as we speak. So I'll back to 12. And you can see that high pressure pops up. You gotta be kidding me. If that's what happens, I'm just gonna, I don't know. That's just so wild. Wherever you see a high pressure, it's gonna force away a low pressure. And Barry is a low pressure system. As you can see, L, here's high pressure. And then as Barry makes landfall, we notice a high pressure pops up basically where you see Kentucky and Tennessee. Now, what is that going to mean? Where does Barry have to go besides straight up the Mississippi River with a high pressure to either side of it? Talk about timing. Look at that. You can see the low pressure still, by the time we get to the top of Arkansas and Missouri here, it's still going right along the Mississippi River. Poof. Let's hope that changes. Let's hope this high pressure goes away a little quicker than expected. Not that we want this storm to come over and hit these people, but the last thing we need is all this going up the Mississippi River, or being pushed up, because all it's going to do is come right back down. And it's going to be more flooding, more contamination in the Gulf. And if we dare, if you guys want to see it, I'll show you. But we get into the 24th, 25th, we got something else that's kind of starting to brew in the Gulf. I know it's way off in the distance, but that could be what we're seeing, that 10% chance coming off the west coast of Africa now. But as of right now, that looks like a panhandle deal. We have a lot of time before that, so we can't even really go there yet. But you can see a nice little thing come off in the Pacific Ocean around that time, too. Big high pressure at this time in the United States, if that happens, if that stays true. Let's back up to current time, which is right now. Let's see if they added some data here. So this is current, I believe. First 6 hours of Friday, 11:30, almost current. So we're starting to see the severe parts of this storm showing up in the rings. So now we're starting to see the shape of what Barry will more than likely become, and that could be a Category 1 storm. This is the only frame they're giving us. We got one frame right now for the new data. But we can see that this thing is following the exact path we showed with the previous 18 hours. And you can see it drops. It wants to almost drop one more time. So you could see right here we got the central area right there. Obviously, because now we have counterclockwise spin, this part of the storm is going to be strongest. It's always to the east that is strongest when it's in the northern hemisphere. And as we click, it looks like it kind of sits there. It just seems like it sits there, maybe a slight shift to the west first, and then boom, it goes straight up with a high pressure here, high pressure here. It's got nowhere to go but the Mississippi River. That's unbelievable. And then by the time it gets to Missouri, that's when it gets pushed out. So it's going to ride the Mississippi River for about a day and a half, possibly 2 days. In fact, let's find out. If landfall happens on early Saturday, we're talking, let's say the 14th. Let's just average it out with the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and then by the 18th, it's a whole nother system that's interacting with it to the northeast. So Barry's not going anywhere for a while. The thing we need to be concerned about is how long it stays in the Gulf. That's going to determine how far into the United States it goes, unless we have something that just really can just push this puppy out before it does anything else. But right now, it's just like it's like the worst situation we could have with this type of storm. A slow moving, very, very wet storm right on a flooded river base and with no direction to go but straight up that river. And then we got to realize, guys, that the river flows this way. So eventually, anything that goes up the river and floods is eventually going to come back down, and that's going to put more of a dead zone in the Gulf again. I haven't looked at the chat in a sec. Let me check out the chat. Yes, Hurricane Colin, that is true. There is a 10% out by the west coast of Africa right now, but chances are it will get sheared away, in my opinion, at this point. In fact, my last video goes into it a little bit. Man. There it is. It's right there. You can see it. I could see it. That last curl right there. That is the central area, no doubt about it. Right here. And it is moving slightly west. We're starting to see that cutout right here. That was about right here an hour ago. So it had a slight shift to the south and a slight shift to the west. But the spaghetti plots are showing a north hook like within 6-7 hours. And I mean, if it's going to do it, we want it to do it sooner than later. Is the point I was trying to make before? Because the longer it stays here, the stronger it's going to get. The more moisture it's going to pack. It's just going to keep pushing moisture into the Mississippi Delta nonstop until the storm actually does shoot north or dissipates on its own, which certainly won't happen. Yeah, New Orleans is almost completely flooded right now. That's the issue here. Everybody is Louisiana has been under super floods for weeks now. Like this has been just storm after storm. Thank God they haven't been hurricanes, but we've just been having these systems that have been coming down so far south. Even when we were in the El Nino times, that brought a lot of the tornado weather into the panhandle of Florida. Basically, the jet stream was dipping down halfway into the Gulf, and that was allowing all those storms to come down. And we were dealing with a lot of stuff going over the Mississippi River, and that soon overflowed its banks in many areas, including Arkansas. Of all places, Arkansas had a breach in the Mississippi River, and we got to understand that water flows back down into the Gulf, and that's when we start dealing with contaminated water. And it's an annual thing. We have a dead zone in the Gulf because of the runoff from spring. And this year was just about 3 times the amount we usually get. And now we have this churning up the Gulf water, about to make a northern hook back up from where it came from. So, I mean, just picture the water that it's churning up, this dirty, mucky, bacteria-filled water that's going to get turned into a storm and then pushed right back up into our faces. It's just, bad situation. Very bad. Yeah, Brian C. I was watching some of those storms in Florida. I speak with Craig Setzer pretty often on Twitter. He's a South Florida meteorologist on one of the local TV stations there, and Florida's been getting its share for sure. So I'm with you on that, bud. I mean, look at the storms crawling up Florida right now. They're finally just dissipating, unless you're in that little southeast part right now, where some of that Gulf moisture is starting to hit. I mean, until this thing is forming fully, I mean, we're talking the Keys are getting rain right now, South Florida. You can see the Bahamas are getting hit. There's a lot of moisture down here. And it goes even farther. If I could bring us into the South Caribbean, you can see the whole South Caribbean is just, it's just a moisture zone. Anything that any low pressure system that goes in there is going to be a severe storm. No doubt about that. And it's just wild to see some of this stuff shooting down south over Cuba while some of it is shooting north over Florida. You see how it's crawling up Florida, but then it's shooting down south over Cuba? It's just incredible. It's definitely possible, Colin. Very, very possible, especially if it stays like this. If this thing doesn't start moving north fairly soon, we could be dealing with a Category 1 storm by the time it hits that midsection of Louisiana, which is more than likely what's going to happen. I can't sit here and be like 100% yes, it's going to be the dead center of Louisiana, putting the east side in the most danger. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to show you stuff. But um, yeah, if this thing sits here and stays at 5, 6, 7 miles per hour, develops slowly, we could easily be seeing a Category 1 storm. The water's going to be the issue with this storm, no matter what. I mean, Category 1 storm is serious on its own, yes, but just the location. It's the situations that are creating this storm that make it bad. It's a slow mover, a lot of water, and a very susceptible area where water just does not work out well with where these people live. It's horrible. I mean, you go on Google Earth and you look at this. This is all marshland here. This part of Louisiana is all just marshland. It's always wet. It's always soggy. It's just one of those areas where it's when these storms hit, they just really do a number with the water. It would take another Irma to come in here, or even a Nate to shoot through the gap. Remember Hurricane Nate from a few years back that came shooting through the gap here? I mean, those are the ones that would do the wind damage because they move quick. They're fast storms. This is going to be more of a drenching storm with the added wind because it's tropical storm. I mean, 60, 70 miles an hour is not slow, guys. That will take off pretty much anything in your yard that you don't have tied down. It might not rip off your roof, but you're going to be looking for stuff. I'm trying to figure out what this line is here, too. I'm wondering if it's just one of the cutoffs in the graph itself, Or if we're looking at a meteor. Could this be a meteor? You guys seeing what I'm seeing? Right there. It goes beep. It either comes from this direction or comes from this direction. I can't really tell. You can't pause this one. You'll see it in a second if there's a delay. Right here. Boom, right there. It looks like it goes right across Central Florida. It's probably just a glitch in the radar itself, but a lot of these radars can pick up meteorites or meteors. They're not meteorites till they touch the ground, but that would be quite interesting because I've seen it before covering hurricanes. You'll see meteors on these radars, and you can go to AmericanMeteorSociety.com and sometimes you can confirm it right there because people jump on and report them pretty fast. We got sound. I'm just bouncing in and out. Yeah, dull crash tracking. What is that? I'm not taking the messages away. I'm not sure why they're being retracted. I was in Irma and Matthew. My parents were in Andrew. Oof, that's rough, man. Yeah, if that chart's correct, guys, that's what I'm talking about. And that's what Norway's been trying to tell people is that this thing, it doesn't need to be a category 1, 2, or 3 for it to be some sort of devastating storm. All it needs to do is sit in a warm, moisty Gulf for a couple days and then shoot north, and we have, just as much to clean up and things to deal with as a category 2 or 3 storm would do anyway. I mean, flooding is very dangerous, especially in the Gulf areas. This thing has nowhere else to go but back up into the U.S., and we just showed that with the high and low pressures on Tropical Tidbits. I'll show again real quick here. But you see, just as this thing makes landfall, we have a high pressure pop up on the east side and on the west side, keeping this thing shooting right up to basically Missouri. Look at that. It goes right up. And still, you got to understand the central low pressure is over the Mississippi River. You see this this area here. This is just a severe weather area. The central low is literally following the Mississippi River. You see that circle right here? That is the low pressure central part of Barry, and it's going up the middle of the river until about next Tuesday. And then it finally gets pushed away by another system. But if that happens, that's not going to be good, depending on how long Barry sits here. And now that we're at this level, let's check the newest data real quick. See how many frames we get here. Good, there we go. That's what I wanted. All right, so we're looking at Barry here. That's central. 1001, 997, 996, 994, 992. So it hits about 992. Look how tight those rings are, though. Man, this is a unique storm. Very unique. This is certainly, if this stays just like this is certainly bringing a lot of rain to Mississippi and Alabama and the west part of the Panhandle of Florida for sure. But Louisiana is once again more than likely going to get the brunt of this, unfortunately. And usually with these storms, these types of storms, they do. In fact, it may be responsible for part of the reason why the coastline is like this to begin with. Over the years, all these storms that just hit this area and keep it saturated, it's basically a broken border. That's a whole lot of water. Oh man. Speed that up a little. When you speed it up, you start getting the idea of the counterclockwise motion. That's why it's good to have that ability. Because when you watch it slow, sometimes it's hard to really see these things form and know what you're looking at. But when you speed things up a little bit and you can get a good 20 hours, 18 hours of data in like 10 seconds or 5 seconds, you can really see patterns and you can get a much better idea of what to expect. Not that that's what's going to happen. This is weather, of course. It's going to do whatever it does. But when we're getting this close to a landfall, I mean, we're just trying to let people know within those zones of who needs to watch out and who doesn't. And then this thing is really looking weird. This little thing that's sticking up right there. Like, what is this? That right there. It goes boop. Those two are connecting. That's what's going to happen there. Yeah, these two. That's why. Take a look at this one. Yep, those are just reaching for each other. They're about to touch hands. If we keep this on long enough, we'll be able to see that connect. Definitely. This right here. Boom. And then you'll start seeing counterclockwise rotation with that as well. It'll get mixed up in these lower level water vapor clouds. It's just still crazy to see the south movement over Cuba and then the north movement over Florida. It looks like these little meteors shooting over Florida. The storms are coming up, then they come back down. It's like this thing doesn't know what to do. Yeah, Norway, that's true. Actually, they were so, after Harvey, that was like the beginning of the new weather watching age, weather watching, storm watching, all that stuff. I mean, there was 2011 was a big year for that too. So from 2011 going forward was a big jump in weather watching, especially like private weather watchers. But man, after Harvey and then Rita, the evacuation of Rita was a mess. And that's dead on. There's more people that actually died in the evacuation than the storm itself. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Thank you, C players. Appreciate that. It's a long time. You don't realize how long a year is until you see like, on your channel. Well, we just passed 2 years in May with this channel, and it doesn't seem that long. And then on other days, it does seem that long. But once you start connecting seasons and you have other data to revert back to, it's just you can really look at the winter and have a good idea about what the summer's going to be like, or vice versa. You check out the summer, you have a decent idea of what winter's going to be like, or what's kind of happening now, and that's the exact opposite of what everyone thinks. Everyone thought by now we'd be in letters, LMNOP, and we are looking at our second storm of the season, and we're almost in the middle of July. But if we remember, we had 10 storms in a row in 2017. 10 named storms in a row, back to 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 back. I think that was 8, but you get the idea. Who asked that? Oh, is to like 9,000. It was actually closer to 20,000. It was like 19,000 people, I think, died in Hurricane Mitch. Yeah, it was well over 10,000. I know that. In fact, we can look it up. Let's find out. Good old Google. Oh, man. There you go. Wow. 19,325 people died in Hurricane Mitch. Whew. Talk about a nightmare. 1998. Second deadliest Atlantic hurricane on record, causing over 11,000 fatalities in Central America, with over 7,000 occurring in Honduras alone due to the catastrophic flooding. Again, keyword flooding, guys. Flooding, flooding, flooding. Due to the slow motion of the storm. Now, let's not get crazy, because remember, the highest wind speed of this storm was well over Category 5. But it was the slow movement of the storm once it got into the Gulf that really did what Barry is trying to do. So I'm not trying to compare numbers here. I'm not in any way saying that Barry's going to take the lives of that many people, but it's the slow movement, it's the flooding, it's the not being prepared. I mean, we got to understand 1998 were the times where all you had was your radio and TV, basically. Unless you were a storm chaser yourself, you had a little bit more advanced equipment. But besides that, all you had was the word of the people you watched on TV or listened to on the radio. We didn't have charts like this that we couldn't watch on a minute-to-minute basis. We had none of this stuff. At least we didn't as the public. But now we do, so less and less deaths occur to those that aren't stubborn and actually leave when they're supposed to. There we go. That was an update. I just want to see these two touch. That's all I want. And it almost seems to me, it's probably not going to be the case, but it almost seems to me once those two areas, I don't know why it won't stay at frame 200. It's making me crazy. Just going to hit refresh. Once it gets to this part, it's almost like it completes the circle. It just did it again. I swear. It's going to complete, and then we got to check out the central rotation after that. Kind of see it here. It is. It's super slow, and I keep going back to the GFS here, and it almost looks like it never does even leave land. It's almost like you go to this frame. We got the central low pressure here, a little bit of severe weather to the east of it, the southeast, which is normal because counterclockwise rotation. The east side is always stronger, but the rings are inland already, and they never leave. It's the central part of the storm that they're talking about making the landfall. So the longer it stays out in the Gulf, the better chance it has of becoming a Category 1 storm, which we don't want. I mean, it's already bad enough that it's going to bring this much water back into Louisiana, because it's going to continue to put water in Louisiana even as we speak. It's not going to be Barry coming on land that's gonna, just start the flooding. The flooding is already there. They're already at peak flooding levels. I was reading an article earlier where the Mississippi River is supposed to be at around 8 feet this time of year, and it's at 16 right now. They're expecting at least a 3-foot storm surge. And if this happens where it's showing it's going to happen, it's going right up the Mississippi River. And that's not just for landfall. That is for the next 3 days after landfall. I mean, look at it. This is the center of the storm right here, and it's right on the Mississippi River. And it just follows it almost like it's a road. I mean, look at this. It's unbelievable. And this high pressure just all of a sudden pops up and just keeps it right there. Won't allow it to move. I mean, look at this thing. It follows the Mississippi River dead on. I mean, look at that tiny little circle right there. It's right over the Mississippi River. Like, that's as dead center as you can get. If there was an eye, it would be right over the Mississippi River. Look at how it follows it. It's unreal. It almost follows it even along the 90-degree angle of Louisiana. It's like this thing is magnetically stuck to the Mississippi River. Oh, man. That's not, I don't like seeing this stuff. Because where is this water going to go after this is all said and done? It's going to come back down. It's all going to settle back in the dead zone. The Gulf is going to be not in good shape for a long time. Actually, yeah, Norway. I want to see that that one you posted. Yeah, this is the one coming off the west coast, right? Of Africa. Might get sheared away, but you put a link up before that I want to look at real quick. This one. All right, check this out. Look at that. It takes that low pressure right. Wow. That one actually is a little more to the west. That's interesting. Thank you, Norway. Look at this. So this one drops it down to 984. Still not quite landfall at 984. Right there would be landfall. Like that little shift right there. Boom. But again, it's all on the east side, but that does put the Mississippi Delta in a little less danger than we've been showing on the GFS version. So we can see how the GFS has the entire east coast of Louisiana covered, 997 inland. Still follows the river, though. At least the east side of the storm follows the river. This one keeps it off it a little bit. The high pressures on either side, though. What timing? You know, like the last time you want high pressures on either side of a big storm like this is right now. Good stuff, man. It's a mix of both, Laurette. There's been people not getting notifications, and there was about a 5-day period I didn't do a live stream. So this has been the first live stream in about a week, I want to say. I hope it hasn't been that long, but it's just been hard. I've been bouncing back and forth between two different places. Between work and doing these videos, I have to be in two different spots. And one of them has good internet, one of them has not so good internet. So when I do live streams, I'm usually in my office, which is now. So, and some people just aren't getting notifications. So if you are one of those people, what I recommend you do, and I try to put this in as many of the pinned comments as I can. If you have the bell quoted, and what I mean by quoted, I mean those two lines next to it. What I would say is to uncheck it as if you were not going to follow me anymore. Refresh the page and then re-click the bell until those quote marks are there. And it basically resets it, and then you should get the notifications. And from the looks of it, I got about 50% of my subs to finally do it. And it has shown a difference. So there was something going on with YouTube. I'm not sure what it was or why, but a lot of people were not getting notifications. In fact, I have the secondary backup channel into Thin Air News, and I was ready to go with the live stream, and I didn't even get my own notification. So it's just it picks and chooses when it wants to let people know. So what's been going on in California? 3.9 at 11:27 p.m., 3.6 at 10:18, and then 5.2 in Mexico. You guys want to look at some earthquakes real quick? Yeah, here's that 6 Salvis was talking about. That was a big boy. Tsunami warning and everything. Right in the hot spot, too. Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia, Fiji, New Zealand. Future tsunami in New Zealand, apparently. And then, yeah, we still have our swarm going on. That's for sure. Leak Project is doing a lot of coverage in this area. He's actually there right now. He's talking with the National Guard. He's following these earthquakes through California. I love that guy. CE players, have a good night, my man. Or girl, I'm sorry. I'm so used to saying my man or guys, I'm sorry. When was the last tsunami? Oof. Well, it depends. There's all different types of tsunamis. There's, your big giant tsunamis. There's 2-foot tsunamis. I'm assuming you mean when was the last legit one? I mean, the last super legit one was Taiwan when over 200,000 people died. That was huge. Yeah, Southern California's getting rocked. It's not good either. This one's brand new. 2.6, and then this one just happened too. 3.3. So they're kind of jumping. I mean, if you look at the red, those are the most recent. So we got to jump from here to here to here. So it's a boom, boom, boom. And the yellow was a while ago. But these were all today, within the last 24 hours. All of them. And as you back out, you could see how the swarm is just in that little pocket there. It's, ugh. Still not a good situation. And what did Dutch mention? He said something about that watch being through the 11th, but he may have extended it. Lava Command, more than likely, yeah. If I mean, I don't, maybe not tomorrow per se. I mean, possibly with these storms, like if I go back to this chart here, with some of these storms that we're looking at, it's very possible that we could see some tornado warnings and stuff even before we're dealing with a possible landfall. But that is a trait of hurricanes. A lot of times, is once they make landfall, tornadoes do spin off these things. But again, this isn't going to be one of our giant category, 2, 3, 4 hurricanes. This is going to be a flood cane. This thing's going to bring massive amounts of water inland. The longer it stays in the Gulf, the more powerful it's going to be. But because we don't see anything really over Category 1 taking place, that'll probably lower the tornado threat once this thing does hit land. But when you get into those 3s and 4s and even the upper 2s, they will produce tornadoes, certainly, once they hit land. And again, it's more than likely always on that east side where the counterclockwise spin is this way, and they'll just spin right off of it. Same exact way. Dole, you're getting deep, buddy. Never been in an earthquake. They seem more unpredictable to me. For the most part, they are unpredictable earthquakes. I mean, there is somewhat of a science to it. You're not going to convince me otherwise. I mean, we could watch it every day, and you know who to go to watch them. But I have been in earthquakes when I lived in California. Nothing ever major. They were always slow rollers. It makes you feel like you're dizzy. There was no shaking, no nothing falling off the walls. It just felt like, I remember I was laying in bed. I had my feet on the ground and my back was on the bed, and I felt dizzy. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And I sat up. I still felt dizzy. I stood up, and I'm like, whoa. I was like, the ground is moving. And I knew right then and there it was an earthquake. That was my first one. And then there was a couple more that same week, and they were all those rollers. It felt like you were on a boat almost. So there was no shaking, so they were probably very small. At that time, I wasn't doing research for earthquakes or anything like that, so I didn't jump online and look at magnitudes. This was 5, 6 years ago now, 7 years ago even. I was over in Simi Valley, California. Invest 93L. That's the one coming off of the west coast of Africa, no? I believe. Is that what you're speaking about? I believe so. I think we could check Mike's weather page for that. Let's do it. Talking about this one right here. Yeah, we have a long way before we got to start worrying about this. Basically 10% over 5 days. They're expecting the shear wind to be back in effect by the time this thing gets to the Leeward or even the Wayward Islands at that point. But it does say the formation in 10% in 48 hours too, and not just 5. So there's two separate charts you can look at. You can look at a strictly 5-day chart, and then they have these charts where they actually show some of the moisture. And here's Barry here, 50 miles per hour, 1001 millibars. Compare that to the GFS, showing 1010. It's pretty dead on. It's right around there. That's when we see 1001 will be tomorrow, around hour 18 into the day. And then we go to the Mississippi River. I can't believe this high pressure here. This just happened. I did not see this earlier, because all the models had this thing coming up and then swinging like that, and now all the models have it going straight up the Mississippi River. And I'm not laughing because it's funny, because it's not funny. It's not funny at all. It's serious, but it's just like, come on already. What is going on here? I mean, this right there, just that little area. It's right on the river. The exact center point of this storm rides the Mississippi River for as long as it exists. The entire existence of the storm, it's on the Mississippi River. This little point does not leave once. Not one time until July 17th. Let's hope that does not happen. Oh, Sonny, hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Where's Colin? Colin's leaving. I didn't see you say goodbye, Colin. If you're taking off, have a good night, my friend. This is true. 2 disturbances in the Eastern Pacific now. There was one an hour ago. Now there's 2. Caroline is resting at the moment, but you know her. She might jump on any moment. Yeah, we got 2 now, Mass. 2. 1, 2. 3. 4. In fact, why not? It's showing them, but I think those are them. It's one of these 2. Because once you get into this area, we're in the 19th. This would be a whole separate set of data. But there are 2 out there. It is true. There's 2. Tropical wave located 1,600 miles southwest of the southern tip of Baja California Peninsula is producing disorganized cloudiness and showers. Development, if any, of the system should be slow. to occur over the next couple days while waves move westward at 10 to 15 miles per hour. 48 hours, 10%, 5 days, 10%. Same deal. Actually, no. This one's now at 20%. But this one looks like it's shooting more towards the Baja. We got to understand the water up here gets a lot colder than down here. That's why it takes a very strong hurricane to keep form and then make it up to this area. That's why California, it's very rare that they get storms like that. But it's happened before. It'll happen again. Who knows? We may see it. Let's hope not. It's the last thing California needs right now. It's the last thing anyone needs is a hurricane. You never need hurricanes. Trust me. Didn't set off buoys. Or did it? It had a tsunami warning, but no buoys were set off, so... Once again, Papua New Guinea's buoys have failed us. But they know Tropical Storm Barry's there. They could see that one. This is our buoy track. Oop. Yep, it's showing the hurricane warning right there. And then this is all tropical storm warnings, flash flood warnings, severe storm warnings. But we can't go by this chart. I mean, we can, but a new plane route. Looks like the plane is, oh, it's not home yet. They're doing another round. Plane's down here now. So it came down, went this way. Could have sworn. Oh, maybe it went down. Okay, so it went down this way, came down. Unless it's a separate flight, because that airplane was over here a little while ago. And I don't see it going up and then hooking this way, but you can see it right here. As of the 12th, that's right now, 12:30, half hour into the day. Interesting. Yeah, if we go... Cobweb, you got it. Yeah, I will see you tomorrow for sure. Thanks for jumping in, buddy. And yeah, guys, we could easily, I mean, it's, like I said, we're halfway through July, basically. It's the 12th, the 15th, we're halfway through, 3 more days. But a lot can happen between now and the end of September, going into November. And we all know that. We saw it happen in 2017, and we've seen it happen in other years. I mean, these storms will just come out of nowhere and rapid fire. Boom, 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 boom. They will just, they hit this... like a conveyor belt. That's how I was describing 2017. It was like a conveyor belt of storms. At one point, we had Katia, Irma, Maria, and I believe one other storm all at the same time across the Atlantic Ocean. It looked fake. It didn't even look real. This is still boggling my mind. I thought it was closer to 10,000, but you're right with that. The Central America part of it, they didn't have much of a warning. 19,325 fatalities, Hurricane Mitch, most of which in Central America. We went over Mobile. We did. We got these two up. That's good. This is a little bit of less quality. Kind of shows you the upper level moisture. You see a little bit of the spin, but you got to rely on daylight for this chart. As you can see, as it gets dark, you can't see the ocean. But you can see underneath that counterclockwise spin on this one, but we don't really need this chart. These are another story. In fact, this one's going to. I'm going to slow that down a little bit. They're almost there. Like 2 more frames and those are connecting. Crazy Chicken Dude, you got it. Thank you for being here, my man. Appreciate it. Bad Weather Freak, the chances are there. The chances are there, and that's why it's important to do stuff like this, to keep these radars open and talking with people and watching repeat like loops. I mean, it's all, I talk about this a lot. I could sit here and stare at this stuff all day long, and eventually it's just like muscle memory. Like you start seeing patterns, but they're not always right. We gotta always understand we're dealing with weather. Things change. We don't, you can't predict everything, but you do get a solid idea of what you're looking at, just like in anything else in life. I mean, if you've never been in an MMA fight before, chances are you're going to lose to an MMA fighter. You know what I mean? But if you practice and you start fighting this and that, you get better. You start learning things. And a lot of it is repeat. You do the same thing every single day, and it becomes muscle memory, brain memory, whatever you want to call it. And you could just see patterns. You kind of get just good ideas about what's going to happen. But you never want to guarantee people anything when it comes to weather. That's something I try not to do ever. If I think there's going to be a significant situation, yes, I will definitely tell you about it, but I'll never tell you to spend your money. I'll never tell you to leave your home. I'll tell you to listen to direction of the local authorities and stuff like that, but I mean, we all make our own choices. All I know is that if I lived in Louisiana right now, I'd be planning my trip north. At least for a couple days. I do not want to be stuck in this at all. It's a lot of moisture, and it's not, like I said, it's not the wind or anything like that I'm really worried about. I mean, Category 1 winds are no joke. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying a Category 1 storm in any way, but with this storm in particular, it's worse. It's almost worse than wind, because this is just going to put water in places, and it's going to sit there, and it's going to be hot, and it's going to be muggy, and it's going to bring bugs, and it's just going to be a mess for a long time. That's why these storms are so bad. These ones that just sit and brew in the Gulf, and they don't move, and they just sit here and just stir things up. I mean, like, just imagine if you're a scuba diver, imagine what this water must look like right now in the Gulf. Not that there'd be any scuba divers down in there right now. I'm just saying for an example, like, you kick your foot and you're in a lake somewhere and you see dust come up you can't see for 10 minutes. I mean, just imagine, the visibility even in this area. It's probably so bad. In fact, I had a chart up a couple weeks ago where it was showing the actual, like, dead zone, and I was just learning about that too, and it was huge. It was extending from Florida to Texas. It was like this half moon shape of like this poison water, they made it seem like. And then it made sense. It's every year we get the spring rain, and it's runoff from the Mississippi. It brings, whatever with it, whatever poisons are around, whatever is not supposed to be there gets caught in the water, and it brings it down to the Gulf, and it makes sense. That's why we have a dead zone almost on a yearly basis, but for the most part, the Gulf cleans itself out, and then we have a repeat. But because of the crazy flooding we've had this spring, And now, all throughout the summer, it's just been nonstop. I mean, this dead zone's huge, and now we have a storm in there stirring it all up, getting ready to bring it all right back into Louisiana and back up the Mississippi, only to come back down once again. Yeah, parts of Louisiana are a little better than they were earlier today, and that has to do with that right there. This dry pocket, the low pressure central area of this is actually giving this part of Louisiana a break, but it's also pulling moisture over the central part of it now, and then the northern part of it will get it later. But once this thing really starts ramping up, it's going to start bringing that moisture right into the area that's catching a break right now. So the longer they get the break, the more water can get out of there before the water's pushed right back in. And just again, picture counterclockwise and then all this just getting pulled, boom, hitting in and then pulled back out. And then hitting, pulled back out. It's almost like the worst type of storm is one that is half on land and half off, or partially on land and mostly off, because all that energy is still in the ocean and it's still churning and turning in a counterclockwise motion. And it's just recycling, and it just keeps dumping water and flooding and flooding and flooding. And now that we have these two high pressure systems on either side that we have to worry about, now we're going to watch this thing go straight up the Mississippi River, the last place we need to go. Me too, Lady Cortels. I hope this thing doesn't sit here much longer. I mean, we don't want the storm to hit anywhere, but if best case scenario is for this thing to just go north right now. And that's it. Either that or just go this way. But then I'd be saying, okay, Mexico, you take it. I don't want to do that either. So basically, the best case scenario right now would be for this thing to just automatically change direction, go straight up north before it gets any more powerful, before it becomes any faster, any more wind speed, any more moisture being added. But unfortunately, that's not really what's going to happen. We've got a chain of moisture all the way up to the northeast that's beginning to interact with the counterclockwise spin of the storm itself. It's very possible we could very well see a Category 1 storm on landfall. And these two, ay caramba, ay caramba. There it is. That's what I want to see. Yes, it is. Unless there's some sort of pressure or the jet stream, every hurricane will go north. Even the ones that come off the west coast of Africa, the Bermuda Atlantic pressure bubble in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, they just circle around it. That's why they bring those storms up to Florida and into the Gulf. You see those hurricanes shoot up in the middle of the Atlantic. That's because there's a break in the pressure there. So, yes, Elvis, you're right, man. Those things will follow that line right through the Leeward Islands, and then Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, South Florida, Gulf of Mexico, or even further south in the Caribbean and then through the Gap. It's almost, like it's almost past the seek shelter deal. It's almost like seek other shelter. You know what I mean? It's like you don't want to be in this area at all if you can help it. I know, you know, people can't just up and leave. Not everyone has the ability to do that. You can't just pack your stuff up if, you have a big family, financial reasons, whatever it may be. Some people can't just up and leave where they live, and it sucks. It's a horrible situation. So some people do really need to sit and just wait things out, and that's where those unfortunate situations comes in. That's where we get those numbers we don't like to see. If money was spent the right way, that's what people like FEMA and things are for. They're for getting people out of dangerous situations, not after the fact, but you know, before the fact too would be nice. More than likely, mass. I would assume. Yeah, if it's a mandatory evacuation, I'm sure they'd probably jack up the flight prices. They did that with a lot of big storms in 2017. They knew people were coming to buy water. They doubled the prices of a bottle of water. And I remember reading articles on that too. Sickening. Yeah, Jeremiah Bundy, I just saw your comment. The flooding's already making it so hard to evac at this point. I've been saying for days, they've had roads closed for days in Louisiana. This is not something that just happened in the last 2 days. It's been flooded for a week straight, maybe even longer. I mean, the Mississippi's been flooded for 2, 3 months now, but Louisiana's been getting hit with these storms and the Texas storms. If you guys remember that, and then we had that tornado rally we went through for a couple weeks, and now we're finally hitting our hurricanes. And it's just the wrong time to have this type of storm in the Gulf. It is not, the timing is not good. I read something about the pumps, Jermaine, and they're saying that they are pumping the equivalent of an Olympic swimming pool every 5 seconds out of Louisiana. Every 5 seconds, they're claiming that they're pumping out an Olympic sized swimming pool, that amount of water every 5 seconds. Do I believe they're working at 95%? No, I do not. Dutch, yeah, I know about Dutch. Good night, Miss Hendricks. Thank you for being here. Very much appreciated. There you go, bud. Wow, yeah, you have. Whew. 22, 7, 9. July 9th, 10th, 10th, 11th, 11th, July 12th. That's what Louisiana's saying. Yeah, that is data. That is data 101. Well, not 101, but data at its finest, I should say. I'm soaking it up. Yeah, I put the link in there too so people could follow it. Right now. Oh, show it to my brother. Right now. Come on. With everything. Oh my god. I just started singing, didn't I? The adjoining DED. Looking forward to that, Jay Doe. That'd be amazing. Boom. I love this. This is fun. Still showing, right? Alright, good. I want to see if these two pieces got to themselves yet. Encore. Nah, Norway, that stuff's wonderful, man. That takes a lot of time. That takes a whole lot of time. Mark, how are you, buddy? Cookie Lewis, I mean, I can't not agree with that. I mean, they're pumping the water out, but they're pumping it into the same place that it's coming from. So, I mean, I understand the concept. I get it. They got to get some of it out of there. They got to get it off the land and back into the water, but we're about to have a tropical storm slash hurricane that's just, it's a process or something we still need to get better at, and we just can't seem to figure it out. It's either that or we're choosing not to. You know what I mean? Lady Court, let me know when you post stuff. I'll definitely check it out. Especially if you're in one of these areas. I'm not asking anyone to go out and put yourselves in danger to get footage, but if you want to see footage, I will gladly post it. If you guys catch anything that's has to do with the type of content I put on this channel, and that's pretty much anything at this point. We do stick to weather a lot, but we do global events. We do weird stuff. I have so much stuff I have to go through. So many things that Caroline and I have filmed and we've caught in the sky that like uh I could do I could do an hour and a half video on just what we've got in the sky in the last like week and a half. Like meteors and these weird fireballs. I bought a dash cam just so I could start catching these things because I see them so often now in Pennsylvania. Bella Baller, thank you. Much appreciated, my friend. 12:22 p.m. I'll be looking for that video. Thank you. It's whatever vibes. Appreciate that. We're just keeping it calm tonight, looking at charts, the most updated data. In fact, let's check this site and... Oh, yes. So for those of you that are wondering about this black triangle deal here, this is where the storm is currently moving. That doesn't mean that's where it's going to keep moving. It's certainly not. It's just the current direction of the storm is always the black triangle. This is where the storm's going to go. It's going to be hooking north very soon. One of these plots actually has it coming out here, then down, then up, making like a Star Trek symbol. And then it shoots up into the United States. But look at where most of these tracks take this thing now. A good 70% of these tracks are going right up the middle of Louisiana and hugging the river very tightly. And remember, now we have a high pressure we're going to be dealing with on the east and west side of the storm once it makes quote-unquote landfall in Louisiana. And again, this is just the current direction. You'll see this often. Not so often do you see the spaghetti plots match this because they know the storm's going to change direction once a certain pressure reaches that area. They just do this to let you know where the storm is currently heading. So as of right now, this moment, they're saying it's heading in a slight northwest direction. But this thing's going to curl up within the next couple hours. But a lot of mess right here. The longer it sits here, the worse it's going to be when it finally does come up this way. That's where the confusion is exactly when it's going to start going north. And until it does go north, it's going to go west. So, I mean, in some weird, reality, we could have this thing turning into, a western Louisiana / East Coast Texas storm. One day of movement this direction without this northern movement puts this storm in a whole nother area. And that's what Norway tracking was showing earlier with that other chart, the NAM here. This one shows it a little bit farther to the west than what the GFS is showing. I mean, you could see it kind of goes right up the middle of Louisiana, but the other charts are showing it coming up this way, like centralized right here. So... it's still, even when you're this close to land, it's very hard to predict where these things are going to go. That's why it's a wide area that needs to be on alert, not just where the eye of the storm is going to be. A lot of people ask me, where's the eye going to hit? Where's it going to hit? It doesn't matter, especially if you live in that area. The eye wall extends out on a good-sized hurricane about 70, 80 miles of, the highest of damaged area, and then that extends out sometimes into the hundreds of miles. So if you live, you don't have to be near the eye of a hurricane for you to be in danger of one. And with a storm like this, we're dealing with flooding. So a slow-moving storm, lots of water. It's like a slow process, but those could also be the worst. I mean, once it starts, it's not going to stop. Oh man, that's scary, Cookie Lewis. So you're saying the levee where you live is basically at its peak right now? Ballet Baller, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Some more. I posted an update on the storm. Awesome. All right, EAS Weather Roblox. I'll check that out. At Cookie, I've not seen this before either. But after 2016 flood, yes, true. Right now, storm surge prediction is saying 2 to 3 feet, but oh man, I don't know how it's gonna. I mean, don't get me wrong, 2 and 3 feet is a lot, but the longer this thing stays out here, the more it's gonna be. And the more it stays out here, the stronger the hurricane itself is going to be, or tropical storm into a hurricane. And just the winds alone, that will push that water in harder. So we already have a expected 2 to 3 foot storm surge with the east part of the storm coming in by the Mississippi Delta in Louisiana in some models. But if it becomes a Category 1, then you got to understand that it's 75-mile-per-hour winds pushing that water in. So that could add for more of a storm surge. Basically, yes, the bigger the hurricane, the higher the storm surge. We were talking 10, 12-foot storm surges with Irma back in the day when that thing was still a Category 4 and 5. So, you know, if we're dealing with a tropical storm and we're talking 3 feet of storm surge, Category 1, I would say 4 or 5 feet. It's very possible. Cookie, all I could say is at least in the next 24 hours, you're going to want to keep a very close look on that and just make sure you're not in one of the mandatory evacuation zones because I mean, a lot of this is going to depend on what happens in the next 12 hours. To be honest, it's going to be. I mean, we could sit here and watch this for the next 12 hours. I'm actually going to be cutting this short in a few, but yeah, tomorrow's going to be a big day for paying attention to local radio, local weather. I'm going to be on all night tomorrow. And midday. So I'll probably be starting around 4 or 5 tomorrow, and I'll be at it at least until this time tomorrow. Through the rest of the storm is what I'm saying. Yeah, there's some places that are going to get floods that haven't seen flooding in a long time. Birmingham, more than likely rain. I don't know that Alabama is going to really be a target zone for the hurricane itself because it looks like, I keep saying hurricane, it's tropical storm right now. It's not a hurricane. You get to remember that. Um, this is more of a Louisiana storm, and then it looks like it wants to stay north. It wants to go north at least to Missouri. So that really does put, I mean, it'll put rain in Alabama for sure, but the flooding and the craziness that's going to go on in Louisiana or that's already going on in Louisiana, no, I don't see that happening. Marjola and Hollis, amen. Night to you too. Thank you all. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you all too. Yeah, yes, it depends on how long it's going to stay in the Gulf. That's why I was mentioning the next 12 hours are going to be very key. Because if this thing, because right now we're looking, where did I have I don't think I have them up anymore. Yeah, I do. So the current movement of the storm right now, as we speak, is slightly northwest. This is the current direction of the storm. Now, you see this jumbled mess here. It just means that they don't know exactly when this thing's going to start going north. and you can't make any of them out. And one of these charts actually has this thing coming down, doing a little loop-de-loop, coming back, and then heading east before coming back, and then going up into the Mississippi area, Mississippi River area. So if this thing sits here and just starts jumbling around, then yeah, the entire time it's here, it's just going to be dumping water all over the basin here. It's not. It's going to be horrible, one way or another. It already is. I mean, anyone from Louisiana is telling me that they are just either stuck, they're getting out, or it's already flooded, and whatever comes on top of it, it's just going to be, unbearable. I mean, you're not going to be able to stay there. Objective truth. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. No, not a lot of the Gulf does, unless you have hurricanes, J. Doe. Wyoming, you say? Yeah, there's certainly weather over there. Not so much to the west, but yep. These two green areas here are flash flood warnings. So we got one in up in upstate New York, north of Syracuse and Utica. At least those are the ones showing for now. That'll probably change though. If there is stuff going on up here, it'll pop up. It definitely will. It usually does. I'll hit refresh one more time just to make sure they got the trajectory of the storm right. So yeah, as of right now, they're still saying the storm is going in a slight northwest direction, but it's not moving quick. It's like 5 miles per hour, almost at a standstill. It's been right here all day almost. And then just yesterday alone, it was back here. So now it got here and it's just sitting. You got it, Salvis. Yeah, we're put a link to download radar scopes. Yeah, the link is in the description box right now. Actually, you can scroll down just under where it says PayPal Patreon. It's gonna have the radar scope app and the link and everything you need to get that. So it's all right there for you. But I will post it if you would like me to. Copy and paste that, and you're good to go. The Real Patriot, I want to say 80, 85, 86-ish, give or take. I saw parts near Texas at 90 degrees. Let's see if we can find a water table here. Yeah, you could just see that here we go. Yeah, it's about, it's a good 86 degrees right now. I mean, look at this. Down by the Keys, it's 90, 86 by Texas. It's an average of 85 degrees all over the Gulf, and the more south you get, the warmer it gets. So I would say right in this area, you got 85 right by the basin, and then you got 86 basically in the middle. So split the difference, 85.5. Well in the range of sustaining a hurricane. You got it, buddy. Nothing more than what we've been talking about. Nothing major in California besides the continuing of this swarm. This is all today. These red ones are all within the last few minutes. And then we had a 6.0 on the west coast today, Papua New Guinea technically. And check out the depth, by the way. That usually means we're going to see a lot of bigger quakes and much more shallow in the coming days, maybe 2 days, 40 hours. We might see another 6, 7 to 7 in change along this fault line here. Let's hope not, but that's usually what the data does. You get these deep, strong earthquakes, a 6.0 at nearly 500 kilometers. That's like well over 300 miles deep. That's going to cause some shallower movement. That's for sure. And Alaska's been fairly quiet. It's been Southern California and the western part of the Pacific Ocean. All right, we'll take one more look at these charts here. Just get one more little look, and then we're going to call this one a night. Only because I need some food. I got to eat bad. About 81 degrees. Maybe, yeah, just like Norway just said, about 80, okay, 82, 79 to 82. So I split the difference, 81. There you go. You need about 80 degrees, but it'll track right through 79 degrees. Like if it's already formed, it'll push right through. That's why we'll see those big hurricanes come off the coast of Africa, and they'll get very strong Category 5 all the way to the Leeward Islands. Then they start coming up towards the east, and they get weaker as they come up, but that's because they're entering cooler water. But once they get the momentum going, they're going to be there no matter what. And that's why this one is so unique, because the water in the Gulf is so warm right now that just having a tropical storm in the Gulf, this type of tropical storm is like having a Category 1 with the amount of water it's holding and about to unleash onto Louisiana and the Mississippi Basin. Landfall, no. Landfall is a couple days. Barry's going to be in the ocean a little bit longer. In fact, the central area of Barry just left land yesterday, finally. Like, it started up here, and the initial hooks came and brought it down in this way, and then this entire area was then covered in 80% chance of cyclone formation. And now for the entire day, this thing has basically just been sitting right here, moving at a whopping 5 miles per hour to the west. And if it continues to do so, we may have a whole new set of data for tomorrow. If this thing continues to move west without any northern movement, we could be talking western Louisiana and eastern Texas rather than the Mississippi Basin and eastern Louisiana. That's all it takes, is that just, a couple hours of this thing staying south and west could change the entire trajectory of where the storm's going to go and change the strength of it. That could be the difference of a tropical storm and a Category 1 or even a high-grade Category 1. Could be a matter of 8 extra hours in the ocean. They're saying now Saturday morning. Yeah, this Patrick, the slowing down of it is yes, it's doing both. It's slowing the storm down. You're not seeing, at least in this screen, you're not seeing the counterclockwise rotation. I kind of pulled those off. You kind of see it here. These are the high-level clouds. You can see the rotation right there. That's why this is where it's centralized right now. And once this stuff feeds into that lower level moisture, we're going to start to see this thing form. And hopefully by then it's already moving north and not continuing west. Yeah, they had a difference between 2 a.m. Saturday morning and then one model had it at around 11 a.m. I mean, that's a good 9-hour difference. That could change a lot. You know what I mean? So that's a big deal. Tomorrow is certainly crunch time for this storm. We'll know a lot tomorrow, a lot more about it. I am curious what the next plane route's going to be. I always pass it. Always. That or I'm going blind, one or the other. Yeah, there he is. Oh, so that's right. That plane was coming from here. Unless they take, will they take off? No, they won't. They won't take these planes off of ships, will they? Will they launch these planes off of ships? That's something I never looked into. That's pretty interesting, actually. That's great. 18 inches already. Yeah, let's hope that deadline's true. Patrick, that's great. Since you've been 9. 20 years of tracking since I was 9 years old. I appreciate that, bud. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I didn't think so either. But I am curious. Because as of right now, the plane, at least it's showing the barometric pressure. It did do kind of like a triangle move. It was 1002, 1002, 1001. So once we get below that 1,000, that's when you want to start paying attention. Because they're going right over the low central area of the storm, which is right where this plane is. It's probably just left it right now, so it's probably just processing the data, and we should have it. It's in progress. Mission number 6 is in progress. $1,000. It's hard to tell. Very hard to tell. Until it actually puts the data out, it's going to be hard to tell. Yeah, I think it's gonna drop below 1,000 before it makes that northern hook. Even if it's 999, I can't see how this thing's gonna stay at 1,000 and above and still be called a tropical storm. I think it's gonna be quick. It's gonna happen quick. It's gonna form quick, and then we're gonna be dealing with the aftermath of it. I mean, look, you could see how it's gonna kind of peak in an area in the Gulf and then peak again once it gets to where they think it's gonna hit. These are the heavy rain zones, and you're showing 20 inches of rain in an area right here. So you would assume that the actual hurricane is going to hit here or tropical storm with a counterclockwise spin. That's why so much rain is going to be in this area. It's always the east side of the storm that gets hit. Um, this would be the area of central pressure in this chart, at least over the next 5 days. This is a 5-day rain chart. Yeah, so it's basically at 1,000, still close to 1,001. But again, what's happening overnight tonight and into tomorrow is really going to determine what this thing's going to be all about. And I mean, you could see if we go by this, if this is correct, we're going to be by tomorrow night or early evening. I mean, this could happen a little quicker. We'll be below that 1,000, but by then, hopefully, we'll be moving north. But this thing, at least this chart, showing a little bit more west, dropping down to 984 before even clipping land. So that's where you want to look out for your category 1. Is right there, 984 before making landfall. And you see all this getting whipped up here. This is putting it right into the Mississippi Basin on the east side of the storm. This even worse here in the middle of Louisiana, if that's the path. This is a great chart, by the way. I'm saving this one, definitely. Norway. There's the connection. Yeah. Oh, it's gonna go below 1,000. It does look close. It's just under that Mississippi Basin, and it's just been sitting there. And it is showing a northwestern direction as far as the spaghetti plots go. That hasn't changed quite yet, but let's hope it doesn't, because if it stays west, it's going to stay in the water longer. We want it to make that hook north, even though it's going to be hooking north into an area of our fellow friends and family. But the sooner it happens, the better. The longer it's in the Gulf, the worse the storm's going to be, unfortunately. So you got to pick the less of two evils. It's the pressure of the storm, Amy. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. Like, for example, we could actually pull it up. Or did I just totally butcher it? No, I didn't. All right, so here's kind of like an idea to answer your question, Amy. So if you look over here, um, basically the lower the millibar, the higher wind speeds, the stronger the storm is. It's not always the case, but more than likely it is. If you ever see a storm drop below 900, you're more than likely, if not guaranteed, to be in a Category 5 storm. When you get to the 960 area, 960 to 940, that's usually Category 3. So that's why when I showed the 984 from Norway's chart here, that could potentially be. It's Category 1. I mean, it's not. I don't see it. It's not gonna. I don't see it dropping below 970. A Category 2 could fit between 970 and 954, but we're going to be just under 1,000 for this storm. So if it does get to that 84 mark, we could be looking at a Category 1, and that's going to be 75-mile-per-hour winds. And the east side of the storm is going to be pushing that into the Mississippi Basin. So basically, long story short, the the millibar, or the barometric pressure, the lower it is, the stronger the storm when it comes to hurricanes, or any storm for that matter. Very true, Patrick. If this thing's at 70 mile per hour when I get up tomorrow, then we're going to have a whole new live stream to be talking about. Warm water, different atmospheric conditions. I mean, in this case, it's definitely the Gulf. The fact that the Gulf average temperature right now is 86 degrees. The amount of moisture in the Gulf. It's a low pressure system, so it's an actual storm. And what happens is these storms move into warm water, and rather than splitting up into different little storm cells, they actually compact, and they start bringing warm air up from the ocean surface through the middle of these storms, and they begin to connect. And they first step is tropical depression, then you get tropical storm, then Category 1. So it's all about water temperature. It's all about high and low pressures. There's a lot of factors that go into the strength of a hurricane. And path. If I open this chart a little bit here, not this one. Let's see. Basically, if you picture the west coast of Africa over here, the longer distance you have to travel in warm water, the stronger the storm is going to be, unless you have some sort of shear wind, which is a high upper level wind that'll break the storm apart. Basically, a hurricane is a bunch of little storms compacting together, and without anything to break them apart, the longer it stays that way, the more compact it becomes, the stronger it becomes. Water temperature, all that stuff, it has to be, it's like a recipe, basically. That's why a lot of these storms are very unique. They're hard to track. Irma is going to always be one of those storms that they just got wrong. We didn't get it wrong on our site. We knew this thing. We knew Irma was going to cross this threshold and come up the west side of Florida instead of the east, but the mainstream media was convinced that Irma was going to come up here, and that's why they moved everyone from one side of Florida to the other, and it ended up clipping Cuba, thank God, and then coming up into Florida. Had it not hit Cuba, we'd be talking about Florida like we're talking about the dead spots in Louisiana and still the train wrecked areas of Houston after Harvey. Yeah, Patrick, the Gulf's almost at record temperatures for this time of year. Some of those temperatures were hitting 90 degrees. And now, whether that's because of the flooding going on and some of the different types of bacteria in the water, but even in the areas near like Cancun and stuff like that, and the west side of Cuba, and down in the little gully here in Mexico, it was a very high temperature water. A lot higher than it was last year, at least. True. Yep, the entire Atlantic is. There's still potential for an East Coast hurricane. Absolutely. What do we got? 128. All right. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this live stream. We're going to cut this one because I got to get some food in me. If anything happens that needs to be reported on, I will jump back on. But tomorrow, basically 4 or 5 o'clock and on, we are covering Barry nonstop. So I just want to thank you all for being in here. Norway, thank you so much for modding, of course, as always. Mass, thank you. Of course, everyone that donated, thank you so much. I appreciate all of it. Every single one of you that come in this room every day, it's an incredible thing. We got a storm on our hands that we need to watch out for, and we have to be prepared for it. And it's coming in the next couple days, and we're going to cover it until then, and we're going to cover it until it's gone, and then we're going to cover the next one. So that's what we do here. But again, guys, I just want to say thank you. It's 1:30 a.m. right now, Eastern time, and I'm going to cut this one short, get some food in me, get some rest, and we'll be back at it tomorrow for sure. Well, later on today, tomorrow for some of you, but... thanks again, guys. Very much appreciated, and we're going to end it there. So I hope you all have a good night, and we'll talk soon. All right? Be safe.